The patent-pending Terp-Ready system consists of the Terp-Ready heater and the Terp Hammer, which were specifically designed from the ground up for the consumption bar and lounge setting, and for the consumer that's ready to put away their lighter and torch in favor of a more sophisticated method of consumption. The Terp-Ready features a unique tower design, with a sloped face that puts its electronics at a 45-degree angle, so that even though the unit is remarkably lightweight, the natural downward force created in use allows the buttons to be operated without the device sliding all over your work surface. The controls are very simple, and aside from the power button on the back, the only two buttons that you'll be using will be the temperature up and down button located on the front control pad. It is important to note that the Terp-Ready should never be turned up over 680 degrees Fahrenheit. It may work like the Keurig of dabs, but it should be treated more like an espresso machine. Like an espresso machine, caution should be taken around the hot metal areas. And further like an espresso machine, the temperature control can be set high enough to damage the unit, if set above the maximum stated temperature of 680 degrees Fahrenheit. To create the custom electronics needed to add a high limit or other cool options like alarms, preset temperatures, etc., would simply make the device's price too cost prohibitive at this time. I do, however, have all kinds of cool new features, bells, and whistles already cooked up, and I'm ready to hit the ground running on the next generation of Terp-Ready systems, if there's enough support and demand for it within the community. While the tower design allows for the use of any number of upcoming docks, the tower design also allows for the banger to be easily handled by the connector. It stays perfectly cool to the touch, even when the bucket of the banger is fully heated. The Terp-Ready features a special heater that many will be quick to point out looks like something on an e-nail rig. Now, most of those sorts of coils are actually hand-wound and have wild tolerances. The specially designed coil heaters on the Terp-Ready are mass-produced and machine-wound for the tightest possible tolerances. They then undergo a special treatment that increases the surface strength and the durability of the surface of the heaters in the same way that sandblasting is meant to, but without leaving the surface of the heater even more porous. The Terp-Ready heaters then undergo a final special polymerization process in an effort to fill the remaining pores in the heater surface and leave it as smooth as possible. You of course can't see most of this with the naked eye, but these are just a sampling of some of the unseen details that make the Terp-Ready system work just as well as it does. As far as maintenance, you just want to try and make sure to keep the unit clean and make sure nothing gets loose. On the Terp-Ready itself, this applies mostly to the set screws on the heater bracket. If you're gentle-handed when using the device, you'll likely never need to tighten these up, but users with a heavier hand have reported these loosening a bit over time. If you notice they loosen, they can easily be tightened up with a 1.5mm hex key. Don't force things. The tolerances are tight, and that's what makes this thing work so well. If you're encountering resistance removing a banger or the Terp Hammer, you likely just need to slightly adjust the angle at which you're pulling whatever it is that you're pulling out of the heater. It's nearly impossible to get the heaters on these things to point true north, for lack of a better term, so you may have to pull out with a very slight angle either to the left or to the right, back, or forth. Fighting the angle of the heater or using it with a heavy hand may result in the heater bracket bending, putting the coil out of alignment. This type of alignment is most apparent with the standard 25mm banger, because when these coils are out of alignment, these shorter bangers will actually hang by the stem on the coil guard rather than sitting flat on the coil. This is simple to fix. Power the unit off, and once it's completely cooled, you can gently push the coil up from the bottom into alignment. You basically want it sitting to where the coil is just about flush with the top of the heat guard. On a final note, there are a couple of blank unmarked buttons on the front of the Terp-Ready control pad. These are used internally here at Old Head for setting up the initial firmware and testing of these units. If you happen to hit one of these blank buttons on accident, either nothing will happen or the screen will show 4 zeros. This should clear on its own within a few seconds, or the unit can simply be switched off and back on to reset the display. That's about it. Just remember not to set the Terp-Ready over 680 degrees Fahrenheit, and to use it responsibly. As with any heated appliance, do not leave it powered unattended. And in the event that the set screws on the heater bracket do start to loosen with heavy use, and you notice that the coil starts to have some free play within the bracket, discontinue use immediately until you can snug the set screws with a 1.5mm hex wrench. And then you should be in good shape. Be sure to check out the other videos in the series on concentrate extraction with the Terp-Ready and dry herb extraction with the Terp Hammer.